I don't know where to begin, honestly. Kingdom Hearts, one of Square Enix's premier franchises next to Final Fantasy. A concept so absurd, really, I still think it's such an odd combination. Your favorite Disney characters and an assortment of characters from Final Fantasy collide together in a journey that has you guide this boy through a multiverse of worlds in hopes of stopping the dreaded Heartless from covering the stars in supreme darkness. How did this come to be? What, the folks at Square just meet with a Disney executive in an elevator one day and say, hey, have I got an idea for you? What? That's exactly what happened? Jesus H. Christ. So Shinji Hashimoto, longtime producer of Square Enix, shared with then Final Fantasy director Hironobu Sakaguchi that he yearned to create a 3D game that could rival such popular titles like Super Mario 64, but to even rival Mario's popularity, they had to go straight Disney. I don't know if it was supposed to be a platformer or not, my research didn't really say, but Tetsuya Nomura, overhearing the conversation, elected to lead the project with Hashimoto and Sakaguchi giving him the thumbs up. Before this, Tetsuya Nomura was primarily a character and monster designer for the Final Fantasy series, and I gotta say, though his characters can tend to blend in together from time to time, I always thought he was an excellent monster designer. Like, this guy can make a fucking beast and make it come to life. The Kingdom Hearts series would mark his debut as a director, and the result of his ambitions is something I'm sure I'll cover as I proceed through this marathon. So what does the franchise mean to me? I mean, what's my history with it? Well, I've been playing it since its debut in 2002. I was a 10th grade student, I had a lot of free time, and most of it went to my PlayStation 2. I love this console. It had just about everything for me. Platformers, action-adventure games, RPGs. Oh man, RPGs. I was still at a pretty substantial high for Final Fantasy around this time, and the instant I laid my eyes on the very first Kingdom Hearts commercial I ever saw, I was hooked. Though Disney had a large part in that hype as well, and like many kids, I was raised with Disney movies, The Little Mermaid, Lion King, Aladdin, among many others, and seeing them all in a single package along with characters of the Final Fantasy series was hypnotizing. Unexpected, of course, but back then I was like, oh my god, it's Cloud! Oh look, he looks so cool! Oh, look, the genie! He's helping me nuke some bad guys, and holy shit, it's Sephiroth! This is so amazing, and he won't stop kicking me in the dick! I put so many hours into this, but growing up with the series at the time was not pleasant. I anxiously awaited for the next game in the lineup to see where the story continued, and my answer was in the form of Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, a sequel to the first game for the Game Boy Advance. Now, Kingdom Hearts 2 would be properly released for the PlayStation 2 in 2006, but then afterwards, as more of the story unfolded through future releases, things started going all over the place. Kingdom Hearts 358 Days Over 2 was released for the Nintendo DS, Kingdom Hearts Coded was initially a mobile phone game, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep was for the PlayStation Portable, and Dream Drop Distance was for the Nintendo 3DS. Whereas Kingdom Hearts 3, you might be asking? That's a good fucking question. And you know, not to demean the other titles' worth, they may not have a numerical value next to their name, but they're every bit as much as a Kingdom Hearts game as the rest, except maybe Coded, but one game at a time here. They're not spin-offs, they're continuations of the big story, and that's part of what pissed me off. Like, I had friends who played the original game, then went straight to Kingdom Hearts 2 without ever playing Chain of Memories on the Game Boy Advance. They didn't have a Game Boy and didn't think it was important, so they felt they could ignore it. But the look on their faces when they were watching me play Kingdom Hearts 2 when it first came out was damning, and it just got worse as the years passed. Not helping in the case of Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, and Birth by Sleep were the initially Japanese-only final mixes. They were re-releases with extra content including more weapons, items, enemies, and additional story elements that later games would follow up on, and it wasn't until the HD remixes released over a decade later that international players finally got their hands on these versions of the game. Having to invest in so many different consoles and handhelds in a short time frame just so that I wasn't lost in the next game was a major pain in the ass. Sure, I guess I could always read wiki articles to keep up with the times, but I was always one for hands-on experiences so that I can see events unfold through my eyes and not through someone else's. And you may argue that that's more of a me problem. I'd argue, well, maybe they should just bring all these sequels to one fucking console. But now in this year of 2017, this isn't so much of a problem, and it's all thanks to the Kingdom Hearts HD remixes, compilations of just about every single title all under one umbrella. So if you got a PlayStation 3 or better yet a PlayStation 4, then you are fucking set. And just a heads up, the HD remixes are what I'll be reviewing for Kingdom Hearts 1, 2, Birth by Sleep, and Dream Drop Distance. 358 Days Over 2 and Coded are only represented with cutscenes of the story in this compilation, which I don't think is fair to just leave as such. So I'll be covering their original releases when I get to them. As for Chain of Memories, I'll be covering the Game Boy Advance original, as well as the eventual 3D remake. This is going to be some adventure, but one I've been meaning to do for this channel for a very long time. You guys ready to go? No? Well, too fucking bad, because we're making this deep dive into the franchise together, starting with the 2002 original. As these games are heavily story-driven, for better or worse, I'll be giving you guys some Metal Gear-esque spoiler skips so that you don't have to worry about me ruining everything for you. And just a forewarning, I certainly hope you're not expecting a thesis on the Kingdom Hearts plot, because that's not who I am, and for reasons I'll get into later in the marathon, I don't give a shit. Like the Metal Gear summaries, I'm looking at Kingdom Hearts from a general point of view. What's the true meaning of this, or that? Fuck if I care. I'm a casual Kingdom Hearts fan with a casual perspective, and I'm looking to see if that's enough to get some enjoyment from these games and whether I could recommend them to you or not from what I can gather. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kingdom Hearts. Meet Sora, a young teenager that spends his days on Destiny Islands racing on rickety piers, humping trees, and beating his friends with a wooden stick. Lately, Sora has been having these weird dreams where he's taken to these floating columns with Disney princesses plastered all over them, with a mysterious voice offering him guidance and assistance as these unidentified creatures continuously swarm him and give him some trouble. After waking up from his latest dream, Sora and his two best friends Kairi and Riku are looking to build a raft and sail to the great beyond in hopes of discovering other worlds. Riku, among them all, is most adamant over this idea since he's tired of the same old routine, and shit, he's probably getting sick of all the stick fights too. Elsewhere in Disneyland, we meet Donald Duck and Goofy, royal guards of the Disney castle. King Mickey has suddenly vanished, leaving only a note that explains he's gone on to investigate the sudden disappearance of other worlds, and that Donald and Goofy should head to Traverse Town and look for the one with the key, as he's the key to solving this whole dilemma. If King Mickey knows the person with the key is essential to solving the problem and went off to assess the situation, then why didn't he just bring Donald and Goofy with him to search for the key bearer? Our focus shifts back to the Destiny Islands, where a sudden storm threatens to destroy the raft, prompting Sora to blaze out of his house and miss dinner with his mom, and that's the last time you'll ever hear from her again, I can tell you that now. But it turns out it isn't a storm, but rather an invasion of these shadow creatures, the very same Sora encountered in his dreams, and they don't give a shit about his wooden stick. Amidst the mayhem, Sora discovers Riku looking awfully calm and claims that the door has been opened and now it's possible to travel to the outside world. Sora, much like us, has no idea what he's talking about and just wants to know if Kairi is safe, but a dark power suddenly engulfs the two boys, and in a flash of light, Riku disappears and Sora is bestowed the Keyblade, the blade I'm sorry, it's a magical weapon that's just what Sora needs to take out these dark creatures. After laying waste to a couple of them, Sora manages to find Kairi inside their secret place, but the two are separated, and Sora is left to defend himself against this giant beast. Now, he manages to get the upper hand, but Destiny Islands is completely destroyed, and Sora is sucked into the shadow, leaving him in Traverse Town, a world where people can go when their home is no more. It's here where he encounters Leon and Yuffie, who bring Sora up to speed on his current predicament. The dark creatures are known as the Heartless, who are attracted to the darkness in people's hearts. And we're not talking actual physical hearts, but rather the metaphorical one, the one Matee represents in Captain Planet. It's more like a soul the more I think about it. The Heartless can steal a heart from someone and thus make that poor sap a Heartless themselves, so in a way they're kind of like zombies too. What the Heartless fear, though, is the Keyblade, the very same that was given to Sora. Turns out he was chosen by the Blade to slay the Heartless and to lock these keyholes. These basically lead to the heart of the world it's in. If the Heartless manage to locate the keyhole of the world, they can destroy it by consuming the world's heart. Yeah, the world itself has a heart, so does that mean a world can become a Heartless if it's lost? Well, I think the answer to that is yes, but I'm jumping way ahead here. Sora is a little flustered that he's suddenly given this responsibility, but his real concern are the locations of Riku and Kairi, who remain nowhere to be found. But before he has any more time to ponder, the Heartless invade the scene, with Sora doing his best to fend them off, but help soon arrives in the form of the Disney Brigade. Donald and Goofy manage to stumble upon Sora after fending off some Heartless themselves, and together, the three manage to clear out the Heartless for the time being. With the key now by their side, Donald and Goofy look to take their gummy ship to find King Mickey. Sora agrees to tag along as he hopes to find Riku and Kairi during the adventure. Behind the scenes, a group of villains led by the evil sorceress Maleficent plan on using the Heartless to their advantage to take over their respective worlds and give Sora and company trouble. And thus, Sora, Donald, and Goofy embark on a quest to search for King Mickey, Riku, and Kairi, and it's not a very complicated setup. Most of the worlds you explore represent a different Disney franchise. Wonderland from Alice in Wonderland, the Olympus Coliseum from Hercules, Deep Jungle from Tarzan, Agrabah from Aladdin, Monstro from Pinocchio, Atlantica from The Little Mermaid, Halloween Town from A Nightmare Before Christmas, and finally Neverland from Peter Pan. Though there are a handful of overarching plot threads, the basic gist of these worlds are heavily abridged retellings of that franchise's story. For instance, in Aladdin's world, you're trying to prevent Jafar from attaining the magic lamp only for him to get it anyway, and now you gotta deal with his genie form by smacking the shit out of Iago. What on earth?
asshole!
If you grew up with the Renaissance age of Disney films, you know what you're getting into, though at a very basic level. Most of the time, what happens in a particular Disney world stays in that particular Disney world, and though at points there are some levels of character development between the relationship of the three heroes, these worlds are basically just here to have Sora, Donald, and Goofy involved with that world's specific conundrum as a result of the Heartless running amok, almost as if Tetsuya Nomura was writing redrafts of all these Disney films, but this time adding Donald, Goofy, and his original creations into the mix. Going back, it's a little distracting, even as a fan of these films. I'm happy to see characters like the Genie, Jack Skellington, and Captain Hook, but if I wanted to relive their animated adventures, well, then I just watched the movie. The retellings here feel a bit half-hearted and don't contain the amount of charm their original incarnations contained, which I felt the most with the Olympus Coliseum and Agrabah and The Little Mermaid. Now, a cool thing is that they got most of the same voice actors and actresses for the respective roles, meaning Pat Carroll for Ursula and James Woods as Hades, and I fucking loved James Woods as Hades, the best thing about Hercules, but it's not quite the same here. The quality of the writing is hit and miss, and the presentation doesn't have the same spark as the movies, which I know isn't fair to the game. The Disney films are technical marvels that are bursting with life, and I know it's not right to expect the same sort of thing with 3D models from a PlayStation 2 title, but I can't help but feel that way only because I grew up with these films. I love them to death. But one thing I wanted to ask those that play Kingdom Hearts that never watched a Disney film in their life, and yes, I know they exist, what do these worlds mean to you? I take my Disney brand goggles off and I don't think they mean much in the overall story. The characters you meet are rarely developed and minimally interacted with very basic context given to the world you're in. I think it's shallow, in other words, and I believe you can only have some sort of emotional connection if you've watched their movies. Without that, what do you get out of it besides some generic aesops about the power of friendship? The main story of Kingdom Hearts is the search for Sora's friends and King Mickey. Honestly, locking the keyholes of each world seems pretty incidental. It's not like the gang heads to the next world to stop the Heartless and actively search for the thing. No, they're looking for their buddies, and it just so happens that the Heartless are there. They slap a villain in the face, and oh hey look, it's the keyhole. We should probably seal that up. As for Sora's friends, well, the fate of Kairi is left hanging for a bit, but it doesn't take long to see that Riku's alive and well. However, he is being slowly manipulated by Maleficent into working against Sora, making him think that Sora doesn't care for him or Kairi anymore since he's got Donald and Goofy now. There's a lot of schmaltzy teenage drama between Sora and Riku as the story continues. They both want to find Kairi, but have different means of doing so. Riku is willing to embrace the power of darkness to rescue Kairi, while Sora thinks that's a horrible idea. Light side versus dark side, misunderstandings that lead to resentment between the two, and a couple of sword fights here and there, yet pretty basic. Serviceable, but basic. Maleficent is the big bad for most of the story. Her goal is to round up the 7 princesses of Heart, as collectively, they have the power to reveal the final keyhole that will lead the sorceress to ultimate power. This is one of the only elements that ties all the worlds together story-wise, because as you proceed through the game, more princesses get kidnapped under your nose. She's like Bowser on crack. Kairi turns out to be one of those 7 princesses, but much to Riku's dismay, her body is intact, but her heart's gone missing, leaving her comatose. Maleficent blames the Heartless, and I guess Riku becomes so enraged that he's blinded by the fact that he's not working alongside the very same creatures that left her friend a plank of wood. Of course, Maleficent is just manipulating him, but come on, man, get your head out of your ass. But the damage has been done, and Riku slowly becomes more corrupted by the power of darkness as the game proceeds, and he continues to give Sora a hard time on a couple of occasions. This reaches its apex when a mysterious hooded figure approaches Riku and claims that he can help Riku unlock his true potential if he fully succumbs to the darkness within him. The hooded figure is revealed to be a man named Ansem. Now, he's someone who was alluded to briefly extremely early into the game, and then after that, he's only brought up again in these Ansem reports you collect and read as you complete more worlds. Short and to the point, he was a scientist who discovered a way to make artificial Heartless by experimenting on people's hearts, has a not-so-subtle hard-on with the concept of darkness, shit, his self-proclaimed title is Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, and basically, he's looking to achieve supreme darkness. The name says it all. He lost his physical body some time ago because of his previous exploits and is now using Riku's body as a vessel. He's really the one responsible for kickstarting this whole game, as it was his experiments that caused the Heartless to run amok across multiple worlds, and he's been the one subtly manipulating Maleficent to collect the other 7 princesses so he can obtain the darkety-dark darkness he's been looking for.
Did you get that?
No!
Thanks to the Ansem-possessed Riku blabbing his mouth off, Kairi's heart is revealed to be within Sora. It's foreshadowed a couple of times, so it's not completely out of nowhere. But being a princess of heart means Ansem needs her for his plan, and this is where Sora draws the line. They clash keys for a bit, and after dealing a critical blow, Ansem Riku retreats, and Sora uses this dark keyblade that Riku was using to release Kairi's heart within him, consequently releasing his heart as well. Kairi and the other princesses of heart are restored to normal, but Sora disappears into nothingness. A fully powered Ansem returns at this time, with his possession of Riku being complete. No longer is he an angsty-filled white-haired pretty boy voiced by David Gallagher, but now a tall, dark, and handsome white-haired pretty boy voiced by Billy Zane. But before Ansem can follow up with his plans, Riku hasn't entirely lost control of himself and temporarily prevents Ansem from doing anything, giving Kairi, Donald, and Goofy time to escape. As consequence for his actions, Sora becomes one of the dreaded Heartless. For about 2 minutes, then he's back to normal when Kairi gives him a hug. The final keyhole is sealed by Sora after a bit of back and forth, and soon, the trio runs into Ansem at the end of the world, the result of a world losing its heart. There, Ansem plans to enter this massive door that he believes will lead him to Kingdom Hearts, the source of all hearts, and an unlimited source of darkness. In a climactic battle, Sora, Donald, and Goofy are able to defeat Ansem, and thanks to the door, which actually turns out to be filled with light, Ansem is trolled hard and ultimately vanquished. But the door cannot be left open, and thanks to some last-minute assistance from the returning Riku and King Mickey, the door is closed for good and every world taken by the Heartless is restored to normal. But unfortunately, this leads Sora, Donald, and Goofy being separated once more from their best friends. Riku remains behind the other side of the door with King Mickey and tells Sora to watch after Kairi, but then Kairi is separated from Sora as the worlds restore themselves. Whoops. Our story ends with Sora, Donald, and Goofy walking aimlessly down this random stretch of road, pondering how they're going to reunite with their friends, and thanks to this letter from Pluto the dog, that might happen sooner than they think. Seems like someone was confident this game was getting a sequel, and apparently Tetsuya Nomura left things unresolved or undeveloped intentionally for the sake of following them up with the future sequel. Hell, if you go out of your way to collect everything, you get this flashy teaser of the next game. It looks cool, but dude, shouldn't you have waited to see how this game performed first before making assumptions here? If this game flopped, then you just look like an utter ass, but what did I think about this one? Now, I don't think this plot is bad. It's easier to follow than what other games will entail, but that's because most of the Disney stuff is quite frankly irrelevant, and the main gist of the actual plot is just Sora and the gang looking for their friends, finding their friends, and then watching them get separated again. What are the fates of Kairi, Riku, and King Mickey? How did Sora, Donald, and Goofy end up on this winding road? Where is Pluto taking them? Is Sora's mother just sitting there waiting for her son to eat his dinner? Well, we have to wait and see. The villains are clear-cut, but intentions are a little dry, if not straight up one-dimensional, if only because a lot of these folks are not really developed aside from what you might already know about them from the respective movies, and the real meat of the actual big-time villain Ansem is left to these optional Ansem reports that are just static screens of text. I think if these were given proper screen time, and if the story were more centered on Ansem's follies instead of repeatedly telling us how light is good, darkness is bad, and friends are great, then Ansem might have been a more interesting and fleshed-out villain. Without reading these for proper context, I guess, Ansem sort of appears out of nowhere, and that is never a good thing with me. The rest of Kingdom Hearts is just Sora going through some Disney World and getting himself into whatever problem that world is dealing with. Now, to be fair to the plot, it's at least always related to the Heartless, so the threat is consistent, but like I said earlier, events that unfold in that one world is usually contained in that one world and has no bearing on the bigger picture. They try to justify this with the whole concept of meddling. Essentially, beings from other worlds are not allowed to interfere with the affairs of other worlds. It's some sort of unwritten rule. But this doesn't mean a goddamn thing to Sora and company, as they have to meddle in the affairs of every world they travel in because of the Heartless. Look, the Heartless are clearly a threat beyond the limitations of a single world. So enough with this meddling shit, and let's get a party of Aladdin, Tarzan, and Ariel, and I guess Yuffie, and let's get a real Disney Square Enix crossover going on here. But since 2002, the story was never really the reason why I enjoyed the game. Looking back at it 15 years later, that's easier to see. As a fan of Disney, I was just happy to see these characters and cameos, especially if it was from a movie I really enjoyed. As a Final Fantasy fan, God, clashing swords with Selphie, Wakka, and Tidus, getting help from Yuffie, Aerith, and Squall.
That's Leon.
Yeah, whatever, Squall. Facing Cloud in the Colosseum, having Sid tinker with my gummy ship, making items with Moogles, going one-on-one with Sephiroth. These are just some of the characters I grew up with. Now, I would have liked other Final Fantasies to get some representation as someone who started with the 16-bit era, but I was totally fine with this. Another part of my love was the gameplay. Kingdom Hearts is an action RPG where combat is real-time, experience is earned after destroying Heartless, and you can use that experience to level up, make your character stronger, sturdier, and unlock new abilities to make things more exciting. Kingdom Hearts borrows a lot from Final Fantasy. Not too far into the game, Sora can start casting magic, from the classic fire, ice, and thunder elements, to defensive arrow spells, percentage-based gravity attacks, time-stopping magic, the ever-useful curative spells, and at certain times, Sora can even summon allies to do his bidding. But we're not talking Ifrit, Shiva, or Bahamut. They're all Disney characters here. Simba, Genie, Dumbo, Tinkerbell, Mushu, Bambi? Huh. Well, my favorite was always Tinkerbell. She's one of the later summons you get, but as long as she remains on the field, she's constantly healing you and provides auto-life, meaning you're guaranteed to be resurrected after dying once. She's also the only summon who doesn't cause Donald and Goofy to disappear during her summoning, must be her tiny stature. Donald and Goofy are your main party members for the whole adventure. In certain Disney worlds, you can swap one of them out with, say, Aladdin, Tarzan, or the motherfucking Beast. Though why we just can't have 4 party members instead of 3 in these instances is something I don't think the game would like to answer to me. I personally don't mind using the other characters, but more often I just stick with the main three because of their abilities, and because you need the main trio to unlock these Trinity marks located in each world, which gives you treasure. Donald is the black mage of the party. Well, considering he can use both black and white magic, I guess it'd be more accurate to call him a red mage, actually. Donald doesn't hesitate to guzzle down his mana like an absolute whore, and he's quick to launch the big spells on even just one target. And the moment a character's health reaches a certain point, he's most likely the first to give them a heal, even if you just cast a cure on yourself. You can alter the behavior of Donald and Goofy to control what kind of abilities they use at what points, but in my opinion, in Donald's case, I don't bother with that because his physical attacks are pathetically short-ranged, and his strength leaves a lot to be desired. And considering that the game showers you with more than enough MP items like ethers, I just let Donald go nuts. Because for as magic happy as he is, it's still Sora doing most of the work. Goofy uses a shield as a means of defense and offense. I personally use him as more of a supportive character to supplement Sora and Donald. I always stock him with potions and ether so that he's always there to give the other two some emergency healing or MP restoration, and later when you get the real juicy supportive skills, there's no one else I'd rather have with me. Sorry Donald, but let's be frank, you're a fucking asshole. Not that I don't mind when Goofy goes on the attack, but he doesn't compare to the amount of things Sora can do. He's the main character after all. Sora is pretty much the jack of all trades. He can cast magic like Donald, go on the defense like Goofy, but he excels in physical combat using his trusty Keyblade, which for being honest, doesn't look remotely dangerous, but hey, I guess he can swing it pretty hard. It's enough to bash the brains in of every Heartless he comes across, and he only gets stronger and more acrobatic as the game continues, from starting with a basic 3-hit combo to doing all sorts of flippy shit by endgame. And I poke fun at the idea of using a giant key to slay enemies, but they are inherently cool in design, especially for the ones you get later in the adventure. The Oblivion Keyblade was always one of my top picks. I have a real life replica of the thing in my house. Keyblades are like the perfect cosplay prop, just don't take them to an airport. For added accuracy, you can lock onto the closest enemy within the vicinity, and until the enemy dies or teleports out of the way, Sora will never take his eye off the thing. Just be careful when fighting close to a ledge, because although you might take your surroundings into consideration, Sora doesn't like a fucking tool, and if you're trying to stay on high ground for, say, exploration, it's aggravating when Sora smacks a Heartless in midair only to fall straight down to a lower level like a goddamn Wile E. Coyote skit. Depending on the current environment, the lock-on can also make the camera uncomfortably close to the action and very herky-jerk. Just look at this, it's just a lot of visual noise. I think I'm doing okay, but honestly, it's kinda hard to tell. It's more preferable to fight enemies in an open area and rack up experience that way. Your means of traveling to other worlds is the gummy ship, represented by these small shoot-em-up sequences, and well, they're not very good. They're like a watered-down Star Fox. There's no enemy that'll come close to giving your spaceship any trouble, and no obstacle you can't easily maneuver around. They're short, but intrusive, given how lifeless they can be. However, with the warp drive you're given about halfway through the game, you can just immediately zip to any world you visited, so that's fine, and credit where credit is due. The process of building a gummy ship is remarkably fun. I loved messing with LEGO Technics when I was young, and this reminded me heavily of that. With the type of blocks you can collect in these missions, you can create whatever you can imagine. As long as it has an engine and some guns to defend yourself with, it can fly, and that's pretty cool. Outside of combat and gummy ships, Kingdom Hearts is sort of a 3D platformer. Now, each Disney world has Sora do something a little different, but all of them have treasure chests to discover, Heartless to destroy, and plenty of platforms to jump across, both big and small. Sora controls fine enough, but there's something about his default jump that doesn't feel as responsive as I'd like it to. He can platform, but it's like he wasn't built for platforming, if that makes any sense, and this leads me to falling off ledges prematurely. Now, Sora can grab ledges to save himself, so he has that at least, but it still annoys me when Sora doesn't react on time. Every other instance, Sora will be spending his time doing something unique for every world, and this is something I think Kingdom Hearts does pretty well. It has a healthy degree of variation in the kind of things you do. It's a little light on the puzzle elements. In fact, most of the brain-tickling aspects of this game are simply interacting with an object so that a pathway opens up, so those looking for something more mentally straining will probably feel left out. But Wonderland has you go through bizarre architecture, Deep Jungle has you swing on vines and slide down trees, Atlantica lets you swim and neuter half of your combat skills, and Hollow Bastion loves these slow-ass elevators. Of course, they're not all winners, but I think they all get the exploration part down. More often than not, there's something to collect when going off the beaten pathway, from healing items, accessories for status buffs, or maybe one of the 101 Dalmatians that somehow scattered across the entire galaxy. For the PlayStation 2, Kingdom Hearts looks great, although with playing the re-releases on the PlayStation 4, it is so weird seeing these games move in 60 frames per second when for years, I was used to them playing in 30 frames per second. I think each world represented is faithfully emulated, environments are top-notch, and character models are on point. Whether it's from Disney or Final Fantasy, everyone looks great, and I enjoy the designs of all the Heartless you can face. Presentation is a different story though. At times facial animations and line delivery are handled damn well and the lip syncing is really good, but there's still something something stilted about body animation, something I think is easily more noticeable when Disney characters are on the spotlight, and the game loves to go on the cheap end at times and have characters speak with basic lip flaps and static faces. In the middle of a chaotic scene, it can be pretty jarring watching expressions change in a single frame. Oh shit! Musically, I mean, my god, it's fantastic, and the remastered tracks given to us in the HD remasters are incredible. Kingdom Hearts was the first time I was exposed to the works of Yoko Shimomura, and she knows how to make a soundtrack. And what I find so great about it is that not only does every world have their own music in a different musical style perfectly reflecting the world you're in, but they also have their own battle themes. It's nice and varied and none of them wear thin for me. That's how you do it, Sonic Unleashed, you and your overused werehog theme. As said before, Kingdom Hearts isn't terribly long and I think offers enough content outside the main scenario to keep you busy. About 15 hours in, I was ready for the final boss, but I decided to head back to the Olympus Coliseum and win those tournaments for extra items and experience. I destroyed countless amounts of Heartless to gather materials for the synthesis shop in Traverse Town so that I can make powerful accessories for the party and eventually get the ultimate Keyblade. There's optional bosses to encounter, Kurt, Zisa, and Agrabah, the Ice Titan in Coliseum, as well as Sephiroth, the Phantom in Neverland, and exclusive to Final Mix, the encounter with the Unknown Man and his double lightsaber flippity anime as shit combat style. A nice preview of what's to come and a good challenge overall. In fact, that's why I like doing all this stuff, because it's a good challenge. Truth be told, even for your first time, I recommend playing Kingdom Hearts in Proud Mode, the harder difficulty. Now, there's nothing wrong with playing Kingdom Hearts in the normal difficulty and below, I've done that for years, but I won't lie, as much nostalgia as I have for this, it's pretty mindless. You can add spells to the mix, summon creatures left and right, but that doesn't change the fact that you're mashing the X button a shit ton of times. You can't kill every Heartless by going berserk, but a good 80% of them easily fall to button mashing. At least in Proud Mode, where enemies take more and deal more, you have to practice caution, especially against those new Heartless that were introduced in the Final Mix update. That's not a compliment for the record. If you have to increase the difficulty just to make combat more interesting, I think that's a problem. There's a workaround for it, but it's still an inherent problem. Now, I personally have a ton of fond memories of the first Kingdom Hearts game, and I have no problem going back to it, but after 15 years, it has aged. The plot's easy to grasp, but that's because the main story is not much to start and the rest is just small retellings of classic Disney stories. Combat is visually appealing and damn satisfying against a large horde of enemies, but doesn't get any more complex than what's asked of you a couple of hours in, so again, a little mindless. If Kingdom Hearts' story wasn't so heavily integrated between games, I would say you're probably better off skipping this one in terms of gameplay, as there are other games in the series that do this sort of thing better, at least in terms of combat and utility. But if you don't want to be hopelessly lost in the continuity down the road, you need to start with this one. Again, not to say that Kingdom Hearts is bad, but it has aged, so make sure, if you decide to play this, that you prepare for that. The next video is sort of a double header. Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories was originally a Game Boy Advance title, and then a couple of years later it got a PlayStation 2 remake, which was included in the HD collection. I'll be looking at both versions since I still think the Game Boy Advance version still has qualities if I were just to go ahead and jump the gun on that one. In the meantime, I have one hell of a convention to prepare for, Too Many Games 2017, and I got a bonus review planned for that, so I'll give you guys more details on that in a separate video to come very soon. With all that said, thank you all for watching, have yourselves a fantastic night, and take care.